In this video, I am going to take a look and assess Shanquella's birth chart energies. Our birth chart energies can paint a picture of our path, so let's see what Shanquella's birth chart says about hers. Keep in mind that this is an impartial and brief reading. See you on the other side, where I see the world, the universe, through energies only. Shanquella Robinson passed away on the 29th of October. Her story captured my attention because of 1. How she was cowardly and brutally attacked, and it seems like she has disincarnated because of the brutality that was inflicted on her. And number 2, because her passing happened 4 days after the eclipsed moon in Scorpio. This has led me to have a look at her birth chart to understand its energies and how the energies of that day and eclipse could have impacted her. With one look, I could see straight away that Shanquella has a placement in Scorpio, and that this was the placement, the element, the energy that was illuminated and set on fire by the eclipse. Plus, this placement of hers is at 0 degrees, which is the critical degree, and critical degrees, once activated, can create very strong and unpredictable energies and results. Shanquella, however, didn't disincarnate on the 25th of October, the night in which the eclipsed new moon in Scorpio took place. Shanquella disincarnated 4 days after, on the 29th of October, and this also provided further information on other placements that were illuminated throughout this time. Overall, key placements of her energies were activated, and the build-up of energies led to what we know about her story, about what has happened to her in that villa in Mexico. Now, I want to start this reading by looking first at her stellium. Shanquella was born in January and was bestowed with a stellium in Capricorn with 5 planets. She had Sun, Moon, Mercury, Jupiter, and Neptune, all in Capricorn. Here, I will briefly say that this was notable in the fact that by the age of 25, she had already ventured herself in the business world and had already materialized 2 businesses, one for hair and the other one for clothing. The Capricorn Saturn energy can be very challenging as it adds extra weight on one's journey. However, like any other placement, it gives and takes in proportion to one's actions. According to what I have heard thus far about her story, it seems like this energy was making her stand out from her peers. Now, let's look at other combinations in her chart in order to make a bit more sense about what has happened to her in Mexico. Shanquella was definitely here for something. Her name, her story is in the news because she carried very strong energies with her. Why do I say this? Shanquella has 3 critical degrees, 3 major ones. Like I had said before, critical degrees cause feelings of urgency and can lead one to major and reoccurring unpredictable life-altering situations. For most natives, they can be like a storm, like major storms that can come and cause massive disruptions and massive changes. These changes can be challenging and they can also be positive. Having critical degrees doesn't mean that the natives will have the same fate, in the same way at least, as Shanquella, because we all have that same fate, right? We all know that none of us is coming out alive of this experience here. We all are going to depart at some point. What I want to say is that not all natives that have critical degrees will depart in the same way that she did. Anyway, Shanquella had her Chiron in Scorpio at 0 degrees. Her Lilith in Leo is at 22 degrees. And her Venus in Sagittarius is at 29 degrees. These are all very significant placements. Very, very, very significant placements. Now, what does this mean and how could this have impacted her? Let's continue. Now let's focus first on her Chiron in Scorpio, which is at 0 degrees. Chiron in Scorpio is the energy, the placement that was illuminated on the day of the eclipse in Scorpio on the 25th of October, 4 days before her passing. Did Shanquella travel to Mexico to celebrate someone else's birthday? Did she have an acquaintance with Sun in Scorpio? If this was the case, then it means that her Chiron in Scorpio and the other person's Sun in Scorpio would be illuminated and highlighted at the same time by that eclipse in Scorpio. It also means that these two placements, hers and her acquaintances, would be forming a conjunction. And this kind of synchronized illuminations usually bring forward changes. Now pay attention to this. A Chiron in Scorpio can mean that these natives, these people, repeatedly get into situations where someone is manipulating them and trying to impose their ideas on how they should live and what they should do. Plus, these natives tend to get into serious and often even life-threatening situations. Was she aware of how dangerous that trip was for her? Now, let's have a look at her Venus in Sagittarius at 29 degrees. On the day that she disincarnated, on the 29th of October, the moon was waxing in Sagittarius. This means that her Venus and its degree were also illuminated and thus activated. This placement, which was at 29 degrees, a critical degree, was activated at same time, more or less at same time, that her Chiron in Scorpio at 0 degrees was activated. So her placement that causes life-threatening situations was activated more or less at the same time that her Venus, the planet of love, was as well. Venus is the planet of love. However, Shanquella had a very afflicted Venus. It was full of challenging energies. And with this planet at 29 degrees, it is clear that she would face major life-changing situations, especially when it came to love, closer, and romantic relationships. The challenging energies that afflicted her Venus included Mars and Saturn. Both of these planets were squaring her Venus. Mars and Saturn together create contradicting energies. They create major push and pull energies. I like to see those two energies like two CEOs, right? They both can be competent, they both can get the job done, they just do it in different ways. They have different methods. Mars is fiery, Saturn is colder, right? It takes time to do its thing, whereas Mars wants it quick. In her case, and in her birth chart, in her situation, this could mean, because it's related to the Venus, this could mean that she was like this, and or that she tended to attract people with this kind of energies when it came to love and to her closer relationships. This usually goes both ways because we tend to attract who we are depending on where we are in regards to our energy. Let's have a closer look to Venus square Mars, the fiery side. This placement adds impulsivity to closer and more affectionate relationships and connections. It can make her attract bold, fiery, fierce, argumentative, and impulsive people. And again, the Venus square Saturn, the restrained side, can cause restraints, especially when it comes to giving and receiving affection. This could also mean that she was or that she attracted colder and sympathetic relationships and connections. Squares usually tend to highlight more challenging energies until we become more aware of them and find ways to overcome them.